Sometimes we don't know where creativity will take us, but that's okay. Sometimes that's just the process. For Winnipeg artist Ethan Lyric, some of his best work is letting the music and raw emotion influence his musical creations. Let's sit down with Ethan about his latest release, Saskatoon Berries, his musical influences, and not being put inside a creative box. Let's get into it.
Butterless and talking about women, polo shirts and men who think I'm their girl, look into the same eyes. You tell me look too long and be hypnotized. I know it's true. If it happened to me, it'll happen to you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Ethan Lyric. I'm a singer-songwriter born and raised here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I make kind of little indie folk songs, and I've been doing that for a couple of years now.
Talking about indie folk, was just listening through your album Saskatoon Berries this morning, and it just really gives you those fun vibes of just imagining like a show where they're walking along like a road with the sun up in the sky. Some of them have got, a little bit of a deeper meaning behind them, but some of them are just like this happy, bubbly, exciting moment. And when looking through your inspiration, I saw that Cave Town was in there, and I was like, that's it. That's what I was recognizing in there. It's kind of giving you some of those same feels that Cave Town does.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up, like a lot of people my age, I grew up on YouTube and all that stuff. So a lot of the artists that really inspired me were people who also had their come up on YouTube, like Cave Town and Conan Gray and a bunch of these people that blew up making covers and stuff on YouTube. But yeah, Cave Town was a really big inspiration to my music.
So Saskatoon Berries, tell me about this album. First off, the album art is just so adorable. Like, where did you find that art for it?
I spent a really long time trying to find an artist that I think would make would fit the vibe perfectly. Something really cute like that. I ended up finding an artist out of Calgary called Jushmu. And yeah, she made an amazing cover, those bears that are also berries.
It's just so good. That's one of those perfect things that you would have like put up on your wall as like a poster or something like that, and just have this nice, cute aesthetic.
And it's always so funny seeing it now that it's you can find those songs in a lot of different places, like on radio or online. Every time I look at like say the radio list of all the songs played, you see my song, that cover really stands out just because it's so different than what everyone else is using.
Well, I think that's the cool thing about being an indie artist, kind of getting out of the mold or conventional kind of style. Like, when you're looking at hip hop, people try to be very specific about like, oh, this is what my album art needs to look like to fit that vibe and tone. Like punk rock, they're always trying to make it look grungy. But indie gives you the flexibility to really try anything that you want.
For sure. I think that I always try not to, how do I put this? I try not to copy anyone. Like I try to make sure that I'm not delving too far into everything in the genre, just so I don't feel overly influenced by anything. I like making sure that like I'm trying to come up with my own ideas and looking at things from different angles and stuff when making music.
Let's talk about that. Breaking apart, finding your unique sound, finding your voice while still paying homage to other artists. How do you break it apart? Because you hear stories sometimes of someone who's working on a project and then they release it and they're like, oh no, I didn't realize I was listening to this at the same time and it completely consumed everything that I was creating.
I don't know. It's such a hard thing, but I think for me that a lot of my songs just have a very unique sound to my kind of music. But I think you also, here's a good thing. I feel like anytime I show my music to people, I get a different answer of what it reminds them of, which I think is a good sign. Because normally, if you only hear like one artist when you show someone your music, you're like, oh, maybe I'm wearing it on my sleeve too much. But I think I get a lot of different answers about who I remind people of, which I think is really nice. And then also just that people say that I have a very unique sound, which is really nice as well.
So Saskatoon Berries, what sort of response are you getting from friends, family, listeners? What's just that sort of response so far?
It's been really nice. It was definitely like a really different process, this EP that I dropped, because before I was just like full indie artist, like making everything in my bedroom. And then this EP I got to work with another local artist named Jay Wood, who produced it for me at like a nice studio. And so it was just it was a lot of like a different process. So going into, I didn't really know what to expect when I was releasing it, because I'm like, oh, this seems like a bar above what I was doing before.
Yeah,
But
kind of a
people,
completely different experience.
and people seem to really like it, which is good. And it's definitely been my most successful thing, which I think was the goal, I guess. But
Of course.
yeah, I mean, it's always kind of like, obviously I've been doing music for a couple of years now, but it always still feels weird when you realize that people listen to your music outside of like your immediate family. I always when you go on the Spotify for artists, you can see how many people are listening at once, and when I notice that it's a larger number than one, I'm like, that's more than my mom. Who could it be? But yeah, it's exciting, and I mean, this time I got it's getting a lot of love on Sirius XM, the Indigiverse, the indigenous station on the Sirius XM, which has been kind of my goal for the past couple of years, to get it played on there, because I love listening to that station. And it actually was the #1 song for the past 60 days, which is pretty crazy.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it feels kind of wild. And the guy who also one of the #1 songs up there right now is one of my favorite up and coming indigenous artists, Wyatt C. Lewis, and he's like on a label and all this stuff. Like, he's on a big label, he's on Royal Mountain, and like, I'm like, that's crazy that we're both played almost the same amount, and I'm just a kid from Winnipeg. I'm like, that's wild.
Well, the internet and everything has really changed everything. You've have the opportunity to stretch out a little bit further than, maybe 2 decades ago, where it's like, okay, I'm a local artist trying to get my stuff out there. It's like, yeah, it's really only if you're like going to bars or playing at places, that's where people hear you. Now you have the opportunity with like Spotify and other outlets to get your songs, get your sounds out there to a much wider audience.
It definitely opens up a lot of different avenues. Like, I love the Winnipeg music scene, and I've been like a big part of the community, and I've spent a lot of time at local shows and all this kind of stuff. But you also realize that now you can't really just do that. You have to do the internet route, which some people love and some people don't. And obviously there's benefits to both. But I think that things like TikTok, and even like during the pandemic, I was Twitch streaming music, which is funny. And it's just like, those are the things that really help you connect with people, because unless you're playing those shows every week and you're getting booked, a good way to put it is you're no longer at the whim of the bookers, which is really nice, because it's like, just in case maybe one booker maybe doesn't like your music, then it's like you have so many more options now online.
Yeah, if someone has a vendetta against you, it can kind of ruin your whole potential career.
And I mean, normally that doesn't happen, but at the end of the day, it's like, it just allows you a lot of more flexibility in like how you want to build your career and how you want to build, your front-facing personality to the world and stuff.
Through elements like TikTok and, as you mentioned, Twitch streaming, it can give a personal touch to individuals who come across your content. For myself, I found you over TikTok, just seeing there, and I'm like, hey, who's this? Oh, this is some pretty good beats. Oh, all right. Oh, the local too? That's really exciting. And you get to feel a little bit more of the creator behind the creation than instead of potentially if you just hear it on the radio, just the song in itself, you're like, oh, that was cool. But in this case, you get to see a little bit of Ethan there as well.
Yeah, I always like to say now, for better or worse, that it feels like the current music industry is about building like a cult of personality, quote unquote, because it's like all the best, or not best, but all the most popular musicians you kind of see around definitely have like a very strong brand and personality that people attach themselves to, which I feel like maybe wasn't as much the case back in the day, but it just shows how the music industry is growing always, and like it's always changing. Like, I mean, TikTok is such a crazy proponent for
Whoa,
music. Like, I know lots of
completely.
people who have had their entire career started just on TikTok, which is wild.
Well, it's just so many opportunities for, people all across the world to see something, and then that they like it. That starts the algorithm start going to be like, oh, you know what? Some people are liking this. All right, let's put it out to a few more people. And you're exactly right with the branding, the personality. When I was thinking about music back in the day, like Rage Against the Machine or like stuff like that, it was more, or like Skillet or AC/DC. It's not necessarily about the artists themselves. It's about the just the band, the music
Yeah, it was about
that
the
they're presenting,
vibe, the vibe
vibes.
they were putting, but not their personality.
Exactly. It's not
themselves.
like, oh, it's this person. It's not Ethan. It's not. Well, I mean, I guess Beyonce is one of those people that really. It's like, this is Beyonce. So it was there before, but that's becoming more front and center, where it's like, yes, this is who the artist is, and the artist and the music are kind of intertwined as this product, for lack of better words.
It is kind of weird, the that evolution a bit, because I work in social media sometimes as well, and I've spoken to a lot of artists. They don't want any part of the social media game, and the sad truth of it right now is that it's like it almost feels like as if that's not an option, which kind of sucks, because there's so many things in the as an artist, you realize that maybe only 10% of making music is actually making the music, and about 90% just feels like you're running a business.
Yeah.
And I feel like every day it feels like that more is just becoming more like that business, where it's like, now you gotta do the social media, now you gotta do this, now you gotta do that, and it's like it feels like music, it becomes more of a business every day rather than music sometimes.
Yeah, it's the challenge of like, oh, well, I want to create this for the arts in itself. But you know what? If you want opportunities to create art, to tell those stories, try more experimental things, sometimes you also have to balance out that more business side. You need to be able to like be in a good foundation so you have that flexibility to try more experimental content.
It's definitely a tough balance, because there was a time where I was, in my head I was like all in on music. I'm like, I'm gonna do music for the rest of my life. This is gonna be my only job. This is my life now. And then as soon as I kind of switched my mindset a little bit and just to a more relaxed mindset, where I'm like, I love making music, I'm gonna keep doing this, but I don't need to worry that this is like my only option. I felt that like my art got better. It's my writing started getting better, just because I felt like, for me personally, the weight of the industry on me kind of while working felt like it took something out of like the artistry for me. So I feel like now, like, that I come into music with like a more relaxed mindset, that like everything kind of just goes better.
How do you approach writing a song? Because it depends artist to artist. Some hear the music in their head before they put lyric on page. Some write lyrics first and then they kind of build the sound around it. What is your process?
For me, it's like there's this John Mayer interview, which I like to reference, where he refers to it as like Ouija boarding, where I almost feel like it's like coming from like a subconscious place in your head, where it's like sometimes I write something and I don't even realize that I was the one who wrote it and like what it meant until afterwards. Like sometimes I'll write a song, I'm like, oh, it's a great song, and then like a month later I'll listen back to what I wrote and I'm like, oh, that's what I was trying to say with that. And I'm like, I kind of have to reflect on my own writing almost, because I basically just like get the chords, start strumming along, and then you just start like blabbing, and then, oh, and there's a song. Like a lot of the songs, a lot of my favorite songs that I wrote are almost written like in the exact same span of time that they are. Like, so if a song's 2 minutes, it's like some of my best songs are written in like 3 minutes, just because
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like it's really raw, really simple. And I think my writing specifically, I always talk about simplicity and like going back to like, I always say I take a lot of influence from like children's songwriting in the way that I love really simple things, because people don't realize that children's songwriting is like, we connect with it for a reason, because the simplicity really connects with anyone of any age. And I like taking that into my music, that, you can not say a lot while also saying a lot in something deeper.
You break something down to kind of its core components. And, there's always something exciting about people who have amazing intricacies through their writing or their music, like was it through the fire and the flames sort of style, or when you're looking at like Mozart and things where it's just notes and everything. Sometimes it's good to kind of go down to those simple raw levels where it's just music and emotion.
Each kind of music has their own kind of appeal and stuff, but just for me, I've always just loved the idea of a nice simple song kind of to calm you down.
The vibe that you got is exactly that. It's driving in a car during when the sun is just beginning to set.
Yeah, I'm glad you get that kind of vibe. I think yeah, the last EP especially was really inspired. Oh, what was I listening to a lot back then? Like, I guess like a lot of Mac DeMarco was in my rotation, and then of course Cave Town and everything, and then just my life at the time, and trying to, make whatever I felt like at the time. It was a lot of songs that had just been written for a while and then kind of all came together, and then Jeremy J Wood really came and helped me put it together. Like, I don't think I would be in the position I am without him. It was really fun working with him, and like I just recently got back from the studio a month or two ago, and recorded a couple more singles that I'll release over the next like, kind of hoping I can just have them in my back pocket and slowly release them. And then that one I produced all on my own.
Oh,
And
exciting.
I don't think if I worked with Jeremy, I would have been able to do that, just because I don't think watching him work, I was able to kind of learn from that.
I think that's one of the exciting things, and something I've heard from a number of other musicians and kind of smaller entertainment groups, is collaboration right now is front and center of artists working together to create a piece, producers and everyone kind of working with smaller artists to kind of make their vision possible. And collaboration, I think, is just a great thing that we need to continue to build within the industry in itself.
Yeah, I think collaborating is one of like the most fun I ever have, especially like I had a couple songs where like I had other people feature on it and stuff, and I can't wait for another opportunity of that. Every time I write a song, I'm always like, oh, can I find a way to get a feature on this? But it's always so hard for me, because I never, when you're in that moment writing, you're never thinking, let me write a song for the feature right now. Like, you're just thinking about writing a song. But I really can't wait. I have so many people in mind that I love to work with, and especially as I now can wildly enough make money from music, that I'm like, well, now I have the opportunity, if I want, I can fly out to friends I've made over the years. Like, some of the best music friends I made were actually when I was saying over the pandemic on Twitch, and that's how I met most of my music friends, is we're all Twitch streamers, which is really funny.
When you're mentioning just trying to think of like how to write a song, like particularly with someone in mind, it got me thinking about Aladdin and how they wrote the genie specifically for Robin Williams and how that fit perfectly. So yeah, sometimes if you're thinking of someone and working on it, taking their influences, that might even take the art a little bit further, because you've crafted it very specifically for this person in that spot.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, in the future, I really hope that I can feature a lot of artists I really like, especially ones in the Indigenous community. I've made so many really good friends with the Indigenous community, and I would not be here without all of them helping me.
Of course. And I think that's the exciting thing right now, just in general, as things are progressing. A more diverse array of artists and creators, whether it's someone like within a like an ethnic community or someone of like a diverse background, giving them opportunities to thrive and bring their ideas to the table.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like especially in the over the past couple of years, you can see that the music industry has really started to embrace people from more diverse backgrounds and like what they have to say in specific. Like I can speak mainly for the Indigenous community because I've seen like the results of that, and I can say that I think that the music community really embracing a lot of people has, you know, really helped a lot of artists, like especially someone like say like William Prince, who I think is right now like the beacon of the Indigenous music community. And he's so sweet. He's an amazing guy. And then I think, you know, when people like that get to thrive, you know, it inspires people like me to think, oh, maybe I actually can pull it off, and maybe, you know, I can be seen as more than just an Indigenous artist, because that also, you know, has been a big issue in the music.
You don't want to be
industry
put
for
in a
many
box, right?
Yeah, that's been a big issue in the music industry for many years, that that the music industry views us as just an Indigenous artist, and sometimes it can be hard to get out of that, where they just see you as that. Where you, the thing is, like, if you look on like playlists for Indigenous artists that Apple make or whatever, it's like there's so much different kind of music, but we're all labeled just, you know, as Indigenous artists. So
You're Indigenous and an artist.
yeah, exactly. So it's good to see that the kind of industry is realizing that and starting to embrace us as, you know, as singular people, and just that, you know, so happen to be Indigenous.
So Ethan, what's kind of next step for you? You mentioned a couple of things, releasing some singles over the next little while and working on collaboration, but what are some of your goals looking ahead?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's always hard to answer that. I mean, for me, like at one point I was like, I want to get on a label. I need to get on a label. That's my thing. And then, you know, I met with a lot of labels, and they're all really sweet. But you just realize that it's like, at the end of the day, sometimes it's nice to just be in control of your own art, and like kind of we're really fortunate to live in a country where there's a lot of grant funding opportunities that are outside of a label and stuff. So I think my goal moving forward is just to, you know, I have those 3 songs in my pocket, you know, get those out and just keep, you know, raising the bar for myself, and, you know, try not to compare myself to others, and just, you know, always trying to, you know, beat my last release and like how good I think it sounds, and, you know, how well it performs. And yeah, I think I'm just excited to, you know, keep one-upping myself. And like yeah, I'd love to see myself, you know, get more love on different radio stations and like stuff on CBC and stuff, because it always I'm like a massive like CBC head, and like I love listening to that. So every time they ask me to come on or play my stuff, I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens. I always like to describe my career as like a boulder rolling down a hill, and I just hold on. So I guess I'll just keep holding on.
Exciting. Where can people go to find more about yourself and listen to your work?
Yeah, for sure. You can find me. It'll just be like at Ethan Lyric on anything or any music streaming platform. You just look up Ethan Lyric, and my music will be right there.
If you have any stories or communities we should highlight, leave a message on our social media or connect with us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.